Hi everybody, and welcome back to Daniellability. Today I thought I would talk a little bit about how I adapt to inaccessible situations. This video is sponsored by JUNIPERunltd. They are an online content hub that promotes inclusion and accessibility for everybody. I'm super excited to partner with them because I love what they're doing, and I'm really excited to be involved in a project like theirs that brings a lot of different information together for people like me who are looking for tips and tricks and things related to accessibility. If you live life with a disability, you know that there are a lot of places that you go that aren't accessible. And in a lot of ways, that is just a fact of life and how you navigate the world. And so I thought I would just talk a little bit about how I deal with those situations and how I go about finding ways to adapt in those situations. When I go somewhere new, I pretty much always take somebody with me that would be able to help me if I need it. So I don't necessarily call ahead or try to find out information ahead of time. I'll just make sure that somebody is with me who could help if there's a step into the door or whatever the case may be. One of the main reasons that I don't tend to call ahead is because most people don't really know what accessibility means. So if I were to call up and say, "Is your establishment accessible?" to them, they may not think that their establishment is accessible at all because there's one small step into the door, where I know that one small step is not a problem for me because I'm able to hop curbs and that kind of thing. So for me specifically, that's not a problem, where, for somebody who maybe uses a power chair and isn't able to hop curbs, that would be a problem. But for me, technically it is accessible because I'm able to deal with that situation. Or on the flip side, they may say, "Oh, it's totally accessible," but they may not realize that their doors aren't wide enough for my chair to fit through, or their aisleways are too narrow. Some of the biggest situations where this kind of thing happens are at restaurants. They may not realize that I can't do a high top table, or a concert where I don't typically want to sit in the accessible seating because that means I'm going to have to be separated from the group that I'm with, where I can easily transfer out of my chair into a regular seat. Or at a concert that's just standing room, the accessible seating may be really far back in the room where I wouldn't necessarily be able to see very well. And a lot of people are really accommodating and will let me go up really close to the stage so that I'm in the front and not blocked by anybody. And so I'm going to have a better experience if I do that as opposed to sitting in the accessible seating area. Another example of this would be a baseball game, where a lot of times the accessible seating is up away from the rest of the seats, where I may have somebody with me who could carry me down to the seats or something like that, instead of me having to be separated from the group that I'm with. Because at the end of the day, I want to experience those things with the people that I'm with. It's not going to be any fun if we have to be separate anyways. And so I want to kind of figure out the situation on my own and assess what needs to be done so that we can all participate and, enjoy the event together. A great example of this is that one of my absolute favorite parts of the city where I live is not very accessible, but I've learned how to adapt to the situation, and I've gotten to know a lot of the business owners in that area, and they help me out. And I've also just kind of figured out how to get around because I want to be able to enjoy those places. And so I just kind of have plowed forward and made it work for me in my situation. think one of the most important things about this is for people with disabilities to be seen in society, because it's when we're seen that people will realize, oh, they want to be here, they want to be included, and they may notice that something is difficult for us and that it needs to change in order for us to be able to participate. That also sometimes means that we have to speak up and say, hey, you know what, this situation is really difficult, and it'd be a lot easier if this small change was made. And I think it just comes down to the tone that you have and your expectation, because if you don't say anything and they just see you out and about, they may think, oh, everything's totally fine because you're clearly here and getting around. They may not realize the need for the change, even though it's still there. And that's still something that I'm working on as well, is speaking up in those situations and not just having the I've got this mentality, but saying something in a kind way of, this could be changed and it would make it a lot easier for somebody like me. So I do think it's really important to speak up in those situations, but also just showing up regardless of whether it's an ideal environment, because it's good for people to see you there and that you want to participate in those things. I hope that that all makes sense for you guys. I hope that it's encouraging to you to go out and experience life. And yes, there may be situations where you'll need to adapt and adjust your expectations and figure things out, but it's also worth it because it means that you'll get to participate in life and be with the people that you care about in fun situations that may have seemed a little bit daunting or intimidating to you. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.